Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year, and welcome to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by James Gisanti. I hope everybody enjoyed the holidays and enjoyed their new year. And we are back here to discuss the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. And it was not only the first one of the new year, James, it was the first one of the quote-unquote new era of Dynamite. We saw a lot of changes to the show.
That we did.
I do believe there was a new intro. I'm not going to lie. My TBS app wasn't working, so I had to restart it, and I missed the intro. But I'm going to assume
How dare you? What's wrong with you?
You didn't see it either.
Hey, don't bury me. I'm tired.
James has been pulling like quadruple duty this week, so shouts to you, James. Shouts to you for still being here. Can't wait to see the Gym Pack Zone tomorrow and your motherfucking SmackDown and Rampage recap on this Friday night.
If I'm still alive. That's always the key.
But along with the new signature at the start of the show, we have new graphics, we have new stage, we had a new announce desk with some LEDs on it. So, James, what'd you think of all the changes here? I know you're a little upset they got rid of the tunnels.
I missed the tunnels. I know it's to say unique isn't really fair because TNA did it first, other companies did do it first. But I love that separation. It just, you know who the good guys are, you know who the bad guys are. I love that aspect of the tunnels. They still sort of incorporated that you see the baby faces coming from one side of the stage and the heels coming from the other. But overall, the stage looks nice. The presentation looks nice. The announce desk looked nice. Some of the new camera work looked really nice. The crowd was very lit up. Good.
Well, I think part of that was because there was a crowd, but
that is fair. But hey, 2023 year of full crowds for AEW and for WWE.
Yeah, no, I liked it. Was the stage the same one they used at was that Full Gear? It was at least very similar.
It looked similar. I couldn't tell you. I'd have to look at it, but overall, just a nice presentation. And hey, if they're using a pay-per-view stage for their TV, imagine what the pay-per-views are going to look like.
Yeah, at minimum, I think they kind of repurposed it. So it looks cool. It is a lot of LED, but I don't think it's not as much as, say, WWE is using, which almost makes it look... WWE's looks like so sanitized. It's weird.
It's oversaturated. Like, it looks very, like, cotton candy. This feels like a professional setup, but on a more real level.
WWE looks like they're putting a filter on their shit. Like, what was it? Was that Aquaman? I think they had that filter on the movie the whole time.
Oh God, yeah.
It kind of looks like that. This is still pretty, gritty, but it does have, it does still have the nicer setup with all the LED lights. And like you said, RIP the tunnels, but you still have the heels and faces coming out of the different sides. So I think that's really cool. But anyway, well, let's move on to the start of the show, which was Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks in a grudge match because they've just been going after each other for the last couple of weeks. Shout out to Chris Jericho. He is, I think, 52 years old, and he's still doing suplexes to the outside off the apron.
52 years young, sir. 52 years young. And I also don't know who this Chris Jericho is, but Crush Jericho, heart of gold.
Yeah, Crush Jericho is a very good guy. Also, the master of reinvention, Jericho at it again. Anyway, towards the end of the match, Ricky countered a Judas effect and went for a Rochambeau. Jericho was able to wriggle out of that and lock in the walls. Ricky eventually made it to the ropes, but Angelo Parker had jumped up onto the ring apron on the other side, distracting Aubrey Edwards. So Daddy Magic came over and hit Ricky with the side of Floyd, the bat. So Ricky was unconscious. Jericho brought him back to the middle of the ring. So Aubrey then had to do, the lift the hand 3 times check. And on the third one, Ricky was able to keep his hand from hitting the floor as is tradition. So he comes to, he gets out of the walls, goes for a roll up. Jericho kicks out. Ricky then knocked Menard and Parker off the apron after they had jumped up on it. Jericho goes after him with a wild punch. Ricky ducks it, hits the ropes, spear, 1, 2, 3. And Ricky Starks has defeated Jericho. And what I now believe is Jericho's third loss in a row. I think they said that. It's his third or his fourth. I do believe it's his third. Anyway, after that, the rest of the jazz holes just came spilling out of the back and jumped Ricky before Action Andretti comes out with a chair and he clears the ring. Unfortunately, Anna Jay jumps in and takes the chair, and Ty Mello sneaks up behind him and kicks him swiftly in the dick because we can't go through an episode of Dynamite without somebody getting kicked in the dick, it appears. And the beatdown is back on. Ricky is then put through a table to the outside from the apron by Jake Hager, and the Jazz Holes stand tall. That was a spot. He felt a
gnarly one.
Yeah, he fell pretty rough. So I like this match. I do like the idea that we are continuing to have Jericho lose. Ricky picks up a huge win, but we still have, like I said, the Jazz Hole standing tall and looking strong at the end of it.
I am so happy that Ricky got this win because nobody's going to remember the beatdown. They're just going to remember the fact that Ricky Starks. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I'm going to make a lot of errors tonight. Everybody be prepared. Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks beat Chris Jericho. That's what's in the record books. No one's going to remember this beatdown next year or whatever. So very happy Ricky did it. I think it could have been booked a little cleaner. I get what they were going for, which was making Ricky look strong, making Ricky look resilient. But I don't know how many people who could take a baseball bat to the face and just walk it off.
I mean, I walked away, but it was about 5-10 minutes afterwards.
Exactly.
And I was in third grade.
If Ricky was going to lose, that would have been a very protected way to do it. I'm very happy he didn't lose, but maybe I would have just avoided the bat and I would have just taken like a hit or something. But it is what it is. I was really happy to see him use the spear on Jericho for the finish. I don't necessarily always need him to win with the spear. I do like the Rochambeau, but I'm a big fan of seeing wrestlers using multiple finishers throughout their career. Changes things up.
Yeah, it keeps finishes fresh because you don't know necessarily if it's going to be one move or the other. Unfortunately, a side effect of that can be sometimes people are going to kick out of the spear or kick out of the Rochambeau for Ricky to finish it with the other one. But I do like that aspect. So I'm really hyped Ricky got this win. Like you said, wins and losses are what matter in AEW. Yes, the beatdowns are going to drive the story, but Ricky's got a huge win under his belt. And it does look like we're going to continue this feud, obviously, by the beatdown. But as long as it's not too much longer, which we said a couple weeks ago, as long as it's not too much longer, I'm okay with this. But if Ricky gets sucked into the vortex that is the Jericho Appreciation Society, I'm going to start getting frustrated because I do not want that for Ricky.
I agree. I do think the Action Andretti aspect of all this is injecting some fresh life into an interesting story. I don't necessarily need Ricky and Action to be partners moving forward long term, but at the very least, we're seeing a hot talent who's on the rise teaming with a brand new talent who's got a lot of buzz around him. And Jericho is entering a new phase of his career. He's changing things up. It's like you said, 3 losses in a row. I think that's unprecedented for Jericho at the very least in AEW.
Definitely in AEW.
Yeah, I'm sure it may have happened in WCW or WWE at some point, but it's been a long time since we've seen that. So very excited to see where this story is going, even if it does go on for a little bit longer.
Let's move on then to another story that's been going a little bit long, but through no fault of anybody, which is Hangman Adam Page. I'm also a little rusty. I haven't been here in a couple of weeks. Anyway, he had an in-ring interview with Tony Schiavone where he was asked about his current medical situation, whether or not he is cleared. Hangman said, unfortunately, he is not currently cleared this week, but if his next stand comes up clean, he'll be good to go next week in LA and fight Jon Moxley. Hangman goes on to say that he's going to fight Moxley no matter what next week, whether it's in catering or in the ring or whatever, and he's going to knock his dick into the dirt, which Schiavone had a great facial reaction to. Obviously, this prompts Mox to come out, and it takes a little while for his mic to get working, which led to him saying fuck twice, which is hilarious. Anyway, Moxley finally gets a mic that's on and starts telling everybody that he is tired of all the sympathy that Hangman is getting because he knocked him out. That's the point of wrestling. And he doesn't get it. He's fucking sick of it. And he asked Hangman if he's mad that Mox knocked him out. Hangman says he's not upset that Moxley knocked him out. That's kind of like I just said, that's the point of wrestling. It's a hazard of what they do. But
this ain't ballet.
He's more upset about the fact that Moxley then made a joke about it before Page could even get a word in a couple of weeks later. And that Hangman then had 2 months to stew over the fact that Mox made that joke, and Mox knocked him out with a lariat, which is something Hangman knows quite a bit about. Yep. So Mox says then that the only joke is that people think Hangman can hang with him in the ring, and that he's going to make sure next week Hangman will never be able to come back. So this was cool. Well, this started hilariously because Moxley's mic wasn't working. Which seems to happen to him a lot, but anytime it does not happen, he plays it off, and it's so funny. But this was obviously, they dominated by the fact that these two guys couldn't actually get in a fight because Moxley wants to fight Hangman next week, so he knows he can't fight him, otherwise he won't be cleared. And the same goes for Hangman. So you can see the tension between these two guys where they're literally holding themselves back.
There was so much ridiculous posturing. It was fantastic.
But it worked.
No, it did. It did. I loved it. It was so much fun. It was a little silly, but in the right ways, especially because of the mic issue. Moxley repeating the line 3 times because he wanted to make sure the crowd could hear it. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And I think it takes a pro like Moxley to not get caught up in it the way he did. It was a great segment. I'm very excited for Hangman to make his return. He tripped up a little bit on the mic. He tripped up a little bit.
A little.
Nothing major, I'm not roasting him or anything, but he did trip up a little bit.
It kind of makes Hangman feel more real, though. I feel like sometimes he screws up because Mox does too, and it just kind of makes them feel like normal people instead of, not to use the word sanitized again, but like everybody just being perfect human beings and always speaking perfectly.
I completely agree. I think the timing is just bad for somebody who's coming back from a head injury to be messing up his lines. Not so convinced you're ready to hop back in the ring, but I know I'm just busting chops. I'm very happy and I'm very excited for the return of Hanger.
Yeah, and that match is going to be great next week. Absolutely. I'm really excited for it. Honestly, that card looks amazing, and we'll talk about it a bit later, I think. But I'm really excited for that.
They're making a big deal about their LA debut.
Yeah, no, they've been in LA before. I'm pretty sure they have. I think so. They've had Dynamite. Or they've had something at the Forum.
Okay.
I'm fairly sure because they did that little West Coast loop last year. Well, yeah, obviously now last year. But yeah, no, they did that little West Coast loop because they also did Ontario, which is right by where the Bucks are from.
Okay.
Fair enough. They definitely did. They definitely did the Fabulous Forum.
All right. Well,
but it's still
their grand return. Their grand return.
It's still a big deal. It's still the Forum. Running LA is a big deal. It's like running, it's like running New York. It's a huge deal. The Forum is one of the most famous arenas in the country. So, I mean, they're literally making an entire TV show about it and the Lakers. Actually, they made one on HBO, and then because of that, all the old Lakers got pissed, and they made about 5 more. They'd be like, no, this is the truth. So, after that interview, I think we went to commercial and then came back to a Samoa Joe promo package. He had a title match with Darby for the TNT title in the main event, and he put on it was a very good promo. I really liked it. Where he was talking about how the dead boy must pay for his insolence towards the king of television. So it was really cool. And then after that, we had the Acclaimed versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, who are obviously accompanied by the Slapnuts.
Is that what we're calling them now?
Yes, it's Jeff Jarrett and the Slapnuts.
Okay, I'll take it. Hey, I'm hip. I'm cool.
So I was actually surprised, before we even get into the match or anything, I was surprised this was on here. Because this went on at about 8:30, I think.
The timing of it all, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be either 9 o'clock or the main event. It going on at 8:30 really tripped me out. But either way, this was awesome. So obviously Danny is not here, but we do have to start with Max's rap, which was great.
15 out of 10.
After
15 out of 10.
After last week, for those of you who haven't seen, Max made a joke about Jeff Jarrett's wife, who is Kurt Angle's ex-wife, if I have that correctly.
You are correct, sir.
So Angle tweeted out something about still using his name to get heat 15 years later and then deleted it. And then Jeff Jarrett's wife went crazy on Twitter. She tweeted a bunch of stuff and about Kelly, and I don't even know. Kelly took a fucking stray. Like, it was so crazy. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? Like, this is just a wrestling thing. And she was like, oh, like, people were saying things like not online. And no one knows what's going on. Jeff Jarrett's on his podcast going crazy. It was a mess. And it was some of the best drama of last week.
Yep.
So Max obviously had to reference that and came out swinging. So he was joking about that and comparing her to all the shit that Skip Bayless was getting on Twitter the other day after the tragedy that happened in the NFL. He's, fucking stuck his foot in his mouth as he is wont to do.
As he tends to do.
Yeah. So he referenced that. He referenced Andrew Tate getting arrested, made another Dixie Carter joke again, and then said that TNA stands for Total Nonstop Acclaim. It was phenomenal. Especially those first few lines.
I know we tend to rate his raps really high. And that's because they're very entertaining. There are some where the overall rap will be good, but he's got that one brilliant line that just makes it feel like such a big deal. I'd say this was his best beginning to end rap in a long time. You know what? I'll even go as far as to say it's his best rap of the year so far.
It's a bold statement.
Yep, but I'm sticking to it.
It was those first few lines were some of the cleanest flow he's had in a while because he had a lot to say. So he kind of instead of doing that little pause he does in between bars, he just went straight through because he had to get all the less rhymes in. It was phenomenal. It was just so good. Anyway, the match did actually happen after that. And Max, being an asshole, put an ankle lock on Lethal very early in the match while staring Jarrett down, much to, I don't know if I want to call it the chagrin or the delight of Taz, but either way, it was pretty fucking funny. So shortly after that, both Lethal and Jarrett were hit with Scissor Me Timbers, and then we got the three-way scissor with Daddy Ass. But then Lethal went over and slapped him in the face, which caused Billy to jump into the ring and really pissed off, and the referee threw him out. Later in the match, after the commercial, Max got a hot tag that resulted in a pinfall attempt off a diving crossbody, but Lethal was able to kick out of that. Caster then tagged in Bowens and went up to the top rope, but Jared ran over and pushed him off to the outside and jumped down to follow him, and Lethal locked in a figure four on Bowens. And this is where shit got fucking crazy. So while the figure four is in on Bowens, Satnam Singh threw Caster into the steps. The referee, who actually wasn't looking, but somehow realized what was going on in an act of intelligence never before seen by a referee, realized what happened and threw Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt out and called in the entire referee corps because there's no way you're going to get Satnam Singh out by yourself. So all of the refs come down, and that ref who was reffing the match jumped out to help get them out. So while that's all happening, Lethal releases the figure four, and him and Jarrett are screaming and pissed off. And then they realize, oh shit, there's no ref. So they start attacking Bowens 2-on-1 because Caster's down. Bowens counters a lethal injection with a sweet rolling elbow. It was a really nice counter. But Jeff Jarrett is able to hit the stroke, and Lethal goes in for the pin. The referee realizes what's going on, slides back in, counts the 1, 2, 3, but he doesn't see Bowens get his leg up on the rope, nor did he see Sanjay Dutt knock it over. So bell rings, match is over, fucking the Slapnuts are champions, everything's chaos, and here comes Aubrey Edwards to save the day. She saw the leg on the rope, she comes in, she overrides the referee, they restart the match, there's a fuck ton of chaos, And then eventually Lethal gets a roll up on Bowens, but Caster comes over, flips the momentum by pushing him, and Bowens is able to get the roll up pin to retain the titles. That ending was crazy. Like you said in our group chat, James, we almost had a TNA reign of terror starting again. Like it was great. It was nuts, but it was phenomenal and adrenaline filled, and just I love the match.
In 2023, I was convinced I saw Jeff Jarrett win a title in a major televised company.
I screamed. I screamed. I was like, I was like, no fucking way.
I was so scared. I was confused. I was angry. And I'll tell you this.
Petrified?
First I was afraid. I'm tired. I gotta just say it. All those feelings, if they decided to just follow through with it, it wouldn't have been the worst decision. I'm glad they are not champions. Let me say it. I'm very happy we have the Acclaimed still as our tag team champions. But I wasn't go away mad with Jarrett winning. It was
close.
Wow, this is crazy. I'm not happy, but this is interesting heat. And maybe that's just me because I grew up on TNA and I grew up on Jeff Jarrett and I grew up on Jay Lethal. But man, they really got me. This was straight out of Jeff Jarrett's Reign of Terror playbook back in TNA with the messy finish, the referees getting involved, the interference, the distractions, all that stuff. It was like I was watching wrestling in 2005 again. Great showing from all 7 men, you know, the 2 teams, yep. Billy, yeah.
7. Sing and done.
Yeah, great showing from these guys. It was truly entertaining. I'm very happy that the Acclaimed are still tag team champions. And the rematch is happening at Battle for the Belts on Friday.
Yep, no holds barred. They announced that later.
Barred. I'm not a fan that that's happening the way it is, but good showing, great rap, best rap, and I can't wait to see what the Acclaimed do after this, assuming they get through them on Friday.
Yeah, I was honestly not even mad at who won the titles. I was initially upset that they ended the Acclaim's reign.
Yeah.
Not only like that, but at this time. I was like, there's no way these guys are done to lose, like, are ready to lose the titles. They're still way too hot to lose the titles. And you're going to do it in the middle of all of this heat that just came out over the last week because freaking Karen Jarrett just went bananas on Twitter. You can't do this now. Like, there's no way you could do this now. I'm so glad they actually didn't do it.
Imagine if they had the balls to. Imagine they had the balls to do it while all this heat is on. People would go friggin' nuclear.
Oh, yeah, I guess. But I don't know. I think it would have ticked me off. Just because I don't think the Acclaimed are done as champs yet. They got a lot more to do. Yeah, they haven't even faced the Bucks yet. I know the Bucks are busy and they probably won't end up facing them, depending on what happens next week with the trios titles. But I mean, I would like to see that. So I don't know. It would have sucked, but it didn't happen. This is all, you know, multiverse hypothetical stuff. So that was good. All right. I don't know what Eric is yelling about. In the chat,
know.
So I'm just gonna ignore him.
I feel like Eric was like halfway through a thought and it didn't come out. But anyway.
Apparently somebody else needs English lessons. So after the match, we then had a sit-down interview with Jamie Hayter and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, conducted by one Tony Schiavone. So Schiavone asked the two of them about their tag match with Saraya coming up and her mystery partner. I wonder who that's going to be. Each of them say this.
You know now.
Yeah, each of them say that Saraya doesn't understand what AEW is actually about, that they both had a rough start in the beginning and worked their way to figure it out and get to the top. And she didn't have to do that. She just strolled right in, and she sucks. So other than that, the only other thing of note here was Britt made a boss joke and threw a very obvious wink at the camera. And there was a lot of subtle nods to it's Mercedes Moné now, I think.
Yes.
I didn't watch
Mercedes
Wrestle Kingdom. I know
Moné.
she showed up, but that is the only thing I know that actually happened at Wrestle Kingdom. I don't know how I've dodged all the spoilers today, but
you can check out my live review of it.
Yes, I absolutely will after I actually watch Wrestle Kingdom. All right, I think we lost James here for a second, so I'll just keep running here. Oh, there he goes. He's back, kind of. All right, so there he is. All right, after that, we had a quick Jungle Boy backstage promo. He challenged Big Bill and Lee Moriarty to a tag match next week with his partner for one night only, Hook. So that's going to be cool. And after that, we had Bryan Danielson versus Tony Nese. Now, I have yet to bring up the fact that this show was in Seattle. And this crowd was great from top to bottom. They were really hot for the Ricky Starks match. They were hot for the Acclaim match. This was a whole different level. Bryan Danielson in Seattle is a whole different level. It was like Bret Hart in fucking Canada levels of loud.
Absolutely.
Not to mention that arena gets really loud. It's a different name now, but that's the same arena where the Supersonics used to play, where the Seattle Storm currently play. And it's also where Kevin Owens and Elias had that nuclear heat after making a joke about the Supersonics leaving. Yeah. It's that arena.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a fun crowd. That's a fun crowd.
Yeah, I'm like 98% certain that's arena. Either way, it's still that same city. And they still were crazy loud. And they did a really smart thing at the beginning of this match where Tony Nese came out fucking firing after a distraction from Smart Mark Sterling and took all the air out of the crowd really quick because everyone thought Bryan was going to lose for half a second. Because after that distraction, Nese got Bryan down in the corner, hit a running Nese, 1-2, Bryan kicks out, and everyone goes, holy shit. But that was pretty much the end of that because Bryan quickly regained control, laid in the kicks. Nese was able to counter the last one to get Bryan back into the corner with a very nice one-arm power bomb.
Yeah.
But after he went for the running Nese again, Bryan dodged it. Nese nailed his knee into the ropes. Bryan then hits a psycho knee, lays in the stomps, locks in. Was it the Regal stretch?
Yes. It took me 2 weeks to realize that he's locking in the Regal stretch. He did it to Ethan Page last week, and now he hit it again on Tony Nese.
Right.
But at that point, they're not calling it that. They're not acknowledging it yet.
But at that point, Nese was already unconscious. So this was cool. Like, it was a good, fun, like, quick match, but that wasn't really the point of this segment. The point of the segment was what happened after the match, where Bryan grabbed the mic and called out MJF. And I'm going to say this now. This was a very, very long promo segment.
I was surprised at how long it was. It was great. It was a great segment. I was surprised at how long it was.
Yeah, it got to the point where, like, I kind of missed a few things, so I'm going to apologize in advance. But I got the good stuff. So, anyway, MJF came out and called Bryan brain damaged Bryan, which low blow, dude. And then says that he's not going to fight Bryan because he gets paid whether or not he wrestles, unlike Bryan, who's just a mark. MJF then starts talking about how just because Bryan looks like a goat doesn't make him the greatest of all time, and then makes jokes about his mother maybe not being able to find human suitors in very podunk Aberdeen, Washington, which was just weird. But then Bryan immediately flipped it back on him and said all the boys in the back make jokes about how MJF's mom has many human male suitors. And was like, there's probably enough, she probably has enough to fill this crowd. And there's probably a few of them here. And MJF was losing his shit. Eventually, MJF got it back together, talked some more shit, which, like I said, I missed because this was really long. But then Bryan eventually told him to just shut the fuck up, and it's time for them to fight. So Bryan starts going after Max. Max just scrambles away, goes up near the announce desk, and goes, wait. Says something to Taz, and then goes, Bryan, you need to remember wins and losses matter here in AEW. You can't fight me unless you're number one contender. And I don't even think Bryan's ranked at this point, which is weird.
I didn't even know they were still doing the rankings.
They do. They just haven't really talked about them too often, I think, which is odd. I do like the rankings.
I do too. I love the rankings. But I had accepted, or at least I thought I had accepted, that the rankings were gone. because they didn't really update them on the site for a
Yeah,
while.
they barely
weren't
update the
really
site.
acknowledged. So I assumed it was over. I'm happy to see it return, but I don't want it to just be for this storyline with MJF. I actually want the power rankings to return.
Yeah, the last time I saw them, there was something with like Britt and a promo backstage there. I forget what it was, but it was something with that. And that was a while ago. It was so long, I don't even remember what it was. I just remember her talking about how there was the power rankings. Although, actually, I think they did the tag team ones too with FTR. Yeah, and the Ass Boys and stuff like that. So they're still around, but I think they're only used when it helps the story along. So anyway, MJF then says that he had talked to Tony Khan, and the only way for Bryan to become number one contender was to wrestle every week from now until February 8th, which is the Dynamite before, what's the next pay-per-view? Revolution?
Yeah.
Revolution. Yes. So yes, the Dynamite before Revolution. He has to wrestle every week until then and win all of those matches. And Bryan just goes, nah. He goes, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to take a page out of your book, MJF. And I'm just going to say no. And I'll wrestle when I want and where I want. And then MJF just goes off and he's like, no, I run this company. Tony Khan doesn't run this company. The EVPs don't run this company. You need to do what I say. So Bryan goes, all right, I will agree to your stipulation if you allow me to make the stipulation for a match at Revolution. And MJF goes, okay, you're not going to make it, but sure. And Bryan challenges him to a 1 hour Iron Man match.
Woo!
James probably heard that and went 6 to midnight. So MJF flips out, but he's eventually goaded on by the crowd and Bryan to agree to it, much to the chagrin of Taz, mostly because he doesn't think Bryan's going to get there. And then Bryan says he's going to run through everybody Max puts in front of him. And then during their title match, he's going to expose him for not having the cardio or the skill, which is why he doesn't really wrestle and he just hides and picks and chooses when he wrestles. So, and then at the end of all of the exposing and exposure, he's going to stop his damn head in. So, James, like I said, this was long. Even that recap was long. But
you did great, though.
There was a lot here, and all of it was good.
It was. We could focus on any one section of it and say, wow, this was a fun back and forth, or oh, this was a good back and forth. I'm just going to hit the broad strokes of it. I'm incredibly excited for this challenge that MJF has laid forth for Bryan, because it guarantees Bryan is going to win all the way until February.
He's finally going to actually win matches. Actually, MJF did mention the fact that Bryan hasn't won a big match since he's been back, which I failed to mention before. And that's something, obviously, that we've noticed and complained about at length here on this show.
One of the things that I've needed to come to terms with is Bryan isn't poorly booked. He's just not booked the way I would like him to be. He has a very winning record. There are stars who have less losses than him, but he wins the majority of the time. He looks dominant the majority of the time. The reality is he just tends to lose the big one. And it's happened frequently enough.
Hey, Cena spent the whole year doing that, so.
He still beat Brock Lesnar, but.
Is that the same year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Cena's bad year was like
not that
bad a year.
Yeah, but it was Cena, so it looked horrific.
Exactly. But hey, next week we're getting Bryan Danielson versus Takeshita.
I am so hyped.
I am too. I'm sad for Takeshita to eat another loss, but Bryan is going to beat Takeshita. That's great.
And that match is going to fuck.
It absolutely is. And Bryan is going to have a nice run going into the pay-per-view. Presumably, they might swerve us. We'll talk about swerve later. But I think he's going to have a nice streak. And I'm disappointed that he's still, like, I have it in my head he's going to lose the title match against MJF. But at least an Iron Man match could protect him. That he's going to get wins over MJF. It's just MJF is going to still get that one win above him. That's just whatever. But I like this promo. I love the energy the crowd had for Bryan. I know that they were in Washington, so of course they were going to explode for him. But it was just nice to see Bryan act like a babyface, appreciative of the crowd. Great segment, great match. I know a lot of people were upset that Tony Nese was his opponent. But realistically, you don't want a big opponent because you don't want to take away from Bryan. And Nese can go. He was a good sparring partner for Bryan Danielson. So from bell to bell, from microphone pickup to microphone drop, I love this segment. MJF is the worst in the best way. Bryan is the best in the best way. So this is a feud that's finally picking up. I feel like we were sort of in a holding pattern for a little bit with the Regal stuff, but we're finally on the right track, and Bryan is on his way to hopefully becoming the number one contender in a super satisfying manner.
I also think this is a very good variation on the MJF makes the face do a bunch of shit to fight him.
Exactly. The trials.
Yeah. Because we had the trials of Jericho, and then we had the trials of Cody, and it's like we've had that multiple times now, and I'm okay with it once. Twice was like, all right, we're doing this again. That's weird. But now this time, didn't he make Punk do one too? Like he made Punk do a bunch of shit before fighting him too. So now like having to do it again would have been annoying. But him being like, no, you actually need to become number one contender.
It's a nice twist.
Yeah, and here's how you're going to do it. And it provides the wins that we want Bryan to have.
Exactly. I think this is the smartest booking decision for this feud. Bryan is going to look good. MJF is looking smart. They're going to have a hell of a blow-off match because I love Bryan and I want to agree with him on almost everything he says. MJF is a hell of an athlete. He's going to surprise a lot of people, and I think he's going to show that he can go an hour realistically. So I think MJF is going to surprise a lot of people come to pay-per-view. Bryan isn't going to surprise anybody because we all know how goddamn good he is, but it's going to be a nice little reminder. So A+ across the board for whoever's booking this.
Yeah, I think you're right about MJF surprising people, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more as we get closer to the pay-per-view. I don't think I'm going to be that surprised. I think MJF is fantastic in the ring.
I do too.
And people just forget that because he never wrestles.
It took me a while to realize that, because even when he was wrestling more frequently, I thought this is a microphone guy. That's where his strengths lie. His ring work is mediocre, but his mic work will carry him. His mic work is superb. He is an A-list mic guy, but no, he is also an incredible wrestler, and I'm glad that I'm not the only one who recognizes that.
Yeah, and Eric in the chat actually brings up a good point where they should make note of. He says they should make note of whoever is the number one contender prior to this starting. I think at a certain point, Bryan's going to have to fight through the top 5. So I think that's like the last few weeks of this. I don't know how many weeks it is exactly now, but I'm sure within the coming weeks, and maybe even by next week, we'll probably have, the contenders list, the top 5, and he'll probably have to fight through most of them, if not all of them. And I also have to imagine that MJF is going to throw in a wrinkle or two, and probably, there'll be some big scary hoss that Bryan ends up having to face. Which will be cool. And hopefully it's somebody from a different company and we get to see Bryan fight somebody really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll get there when we get there. Also, Eric says he'd be surprised if MJF doesn't defend the title before March. Well, he's going to defend it in February at Revolution or whenever. No, wait, why did he say Revolution and then now I don't know when Revolution is?
I think it would have to be the weekend after February 8th, no?
I thought so, but now I thought it was March. All right, well, we'll figure that out, but let's move on for a second.
Wow, yeah, Sunday, March 5th.
Yeah, so I guess
maybe that's their next big Dynamite event on the next Dynamite is the big Dynamite.
I could have swore he said Revolution in the promo at some point, but yeah, maybe it's just going to be that. We'll double back and check. Or I'm sure Eric is going to go crazy and double check it for us, but
yeah. Hey, we're just reporting what was told to us.
Yeah, we're just saying what he said. Either way, very hyped for the hour-long match. After that, we had a quick promo package for Orange Cassidy versus Kip Sabian for the All-Atlantic title at Battle of the Belts, and then we have Swerve Strickland versus AR Fox. which I really, really liked. They were driving home on commentary that AR Fox was like a mentor and helped train Swerve. So these guys had really good chemistry together, and you could see that. And I think it made for a good match. I'm also really starting to see AR Fox for the first time. I think he's phenomenal. I saw him when I went to Dynamite in Connecticut over in Bridgeport for the first time, and I thought he was cool there. And now that I'm seeing more and more of him, his moveset's awesome. Like, I know Shivani called it innovative, and I hate using the word unique because Michael Cole has driven that into the fucking ground. But it honestly, it is a very unique and very awesome just moveset. So it was really cool to watch him go, especially against Swerve. So I'll run down the match real quick. AR Fox started the match, hitting off some, like I said, really cool moves. And then Painted Face Jones, as Painted Face Jones, as Taz called him, decked AR Fox as he was trying to get back to the ring, and Swerve took control.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Painted Face Man Henchman Jones.
That was the second time. The first time he just called him
fine.
Painted Face Jones, and that was a lot easier for me to say. Either way, I thought they were like they spent a good first like 5 minutes of that match talking about him and Parker Boudreaux, and not actually calling the match until AR Fox started hitting some dope shit, and then they finally got back to the match. Okay. So later in the match, AR Fox hit a 450 splash, but Swerve kicked out. Then Fox took Swerve over to the top rope and was on his shoulders and kind of propped him up there. Then he went up behind him. And while he was doing that, Painted Face Jones went over and distracted the referee because he had a chain in his hand. And while I think it was Rick Knox, while he was distracted, Boudreaux gave something to Swerve. We never saw what it was. We never figured out what it was, but he gave him something. And Swerve punched Fox in the face, and Fox was basically out cold at that point. Swerve then hit a Death Valley driver to the apron, which was vicious. Rolled Fox into the ring, hit the Swerve stomp, and then got the win. So this was cool. Like I said, it was good chemistry. It wasn't the best match on the card, but I really did enjoy it. And we're seeing now, I guess, the dynamic of Swerve with these two guys. We're not there yet, but Swerve is full blown cheat to win heel now.
It's the progression here was natural, and I appreciate it. Swerve was always this character, but he was suppressing it because of his time with Keith Lee. And now all of those nasty intentions, all of those nasty impulses, they're finally coming to light. And Swerve is going to be performing the way he wants to perform. And I think it's a really beautiful progression for his character. Swerve is guaranteed big things in the future. That's how good he is. That's how captivating he is. I like the idea that he's leading a little stable that are just his goons. I think that's good for him. Anyone tell me how Hit Row is doing on SmackDown without him?
Last I saw, one of them try to jump over the top rope, and it didn't go very well.
Exactly. So I believe that was Top Dollar.
Yeah. Top Dollar can't clear a top rope.
This is terrible. The Swerve we should be getting. I don't know why they're playing the mystery up on the tattooed guy, considering now the fans already know who he is.
Yeah, he's a baseball player.
Yeah.
Or was a baseball player.
I don't understand the mystery aspect of this unless they have something relatively big planned. Or they just want him to feel mysterious and scary. But I think the face tattoos cover that. This was a fun match. AR Fox, he's finding a nice little role in AEW. I hope he starts to pick up some wins, though.
Well, he just won the. Yeah, I was gonna say he just won the Battle Royale with Top Flight. So he's got that. He's good with them. They maybe they make some sort of run at the trios titles together, or maybe not. Yeah, or at least like probably get a matchup for them at some point. So I think that'll happen, and I think he'll get some singles win. He's definitely winning on Dark and stuff like that. So good match. Nothing groundbreaking, but it got the story moving for Swerve and is further developing him
as this heel.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see him heal it up a bit more.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's his more natural state.
He's going to get way more maniacal, and I don't know that a lot of fans are ready for it yet.
Yeah, I mean, he already stomped a brick through somebody's chest and then just use a. Was it? I'm trying to figure out what it was. It wasn't his grill, right? Like I assumed the weapon, like it wouldn't have done that. But it was so small.
Yeah, I hope not, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was because it was so small, and then he like made a point to show it before he hit the stomp. But I don't think it was that. I don't think that's a good enough weapon, as many diamonds as there are on that thing. But yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
I'm with you.
Let's move on. And after that, we had a sit-down interview with Saraya, Tony Storm, and Hikaru Shida. So Renee was there, and she asked the trio about all the shit Britt and Jamie talked earlier. And then she asked Saraya about the speculation around her partner for next week. So Saraya responds that AEW has the best women's roster, and they've been putting on great matches. Tony and Shida had both put on great matches with Jamie recently, but she has the best female wrestler in the world sitting right next to her, and announces Tony Storm will be her partner. To which Shida was pretty fucking shocked, to the point where she tweeted out, "What the F is this?" shortly after it happened.
I really wish she had said it on screen.
She didn't talk that whole time, which was weird.
That was a bizarre segment, because I think we know how the story is going to progress next week. Next week. Yeah. I think we all kind of know. But I could tell you now, after how it went down this week, if Shida decides to go heel and turns on Tony and Saraya, they kind of have it coming. They were catty bitches about it, right? The characters, not the women themselves, the characters. But it's like, oh, I have the best wrestler next to me. The best wrestler is next to me and is going to be my partner next week. Do you have anything to say, best wrestler tag team partner? It was so bizarre. And I don't know. I don't think the story is going to go as planned next week, but I am excited, hopefully, for heel Shida. I think that'll be fun.
I refuse to boo Shida on principle, but it'll be kind of fun watching her be heel, I guess. Especially because I don't think she has been. She's been in the company. Yeah, it was just blatant disrespect. Absolutely. From the other two. Like, they didn't let her talk. They like you said, best wrestler in the world, and like one of those memes where it's just like pushing her out of the camera. It was ridiculous. That being said, you're probably right. I'm getting very, very Survivor Series vibes when Natalya wanted to be in the match and she wasn't, and then I think she took Nikki Bella out in the back before the match and had to be in it.
Yep. No,
like it's going to be that thing.
Good comparison.
But instead of Shida being the partner, you're right. It's probably going to be Mercedes Moné. So they've been teasing it too much. It's ridiculous. And knowing AEW, especially, we had the Punk thing and a bunch of other stuff. When they're teasing something like this, they're not just playing with you. They intend to deliver. Yeah. So, all right. Let's move on here. After that, we had an in-ring promo from the Guns. Quick but funny. The Ass Boys had a memorial service for FTR because they're dead now. And they read some beautiful words. And then Tony Schiavone went, "You should have just emailed them," which was great. There's a moment of silence, and then FTR's music hits. The Guns look frightened and scared, and then they bust out laughing, announcing that obviously FTR is not there. They were in Japan this morning, so they're definitely not there yet.
I know. I watched it.
Yep.
I was very surprised when their music hit, and then I was like, "Oh, you Guns!"
I told you they learned well from Uncle Sean.
Clearly.
Having the guys' music hit when they're not there. They then announced the new Top Guys and then their promo with Top Guys out. So, like I said, short but kind of funny. After that, we had a promo package for match 7 of the Elite versus Death Triangle. And then we had Jade Cargill and Red Velvet versus Kiera Hogan and Sky Blue. This match was fine. Honestly, I didn't really take any notes about it. The only thing of note that happened was the interactions between Jade and Red at the start during the entrance. Red basically just blew past Jade and Layla Gray, and that just pissed Jade off. Later in the match, Jade tagged herself in with a head slap, which was pretty funny. And that pissed Red off. And then Jade came over and demanded that Red Velvet tag back in and kick Kiera's ass. And when Jade went for the tag, Red jumped off the apron and started walking out. Jade then got rolled up by Hogan and almost lost, but she kicked out, landed a big boot, pinned Hogan, and she's now like 47 or 48 or 49-0, something ridiculous.
47-0.
Yeah.
Which I'm not thrilled that they're counting tag team matches, but whatever.
Either way, it looks like Red Velvet is done with the baddies, and there's now one left.
They teased it last week, I think, on Rampage. I like Red Velvet a lot, so I'm glad that she's not just going to be playing second fiddle to Jade, but why? I don't even get it.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, because for a couple of reasons, it's just like, I don't know. It almost feels to me like they're kind of getting close to having Jade lose.
I think once she hits 50, the end is near.
Yeah, because and also too, like having the baddies disintegrate around her and losing that like installation in terms of like winning and having them cheat and stuff is just slowly pushing us towards the end of her reign.
Correct me if I'm wrong though. I don't think Jade really cheats all that much.
I guess not. Like there is some distractions. I don't know. Maybe it's just to pump her ego. Whatever it is. And also, too, I never really see Jade's matches because they're on Rampage, and I don't watch Rampage nearly often enough because the TBS champion clearly needs to be defending on TNT. So, but I think
I'm just happy she wrestled on Dynamite.
Yeah, which is like the second time in like 3 weeks, too, which is cool. But I do think the end is nigh. Like, I really do. I think it's coming sooner than later.
If only there was someone debuting for the company who's a big enough star to maybe take the title off her.
And who's might be more of a baddie than Jade is. Here's the other thing, too, with Red Velvet. She has really improved since she debuted. And even since she fucking faced off against Jade Cargill in that tag match during Jade's debut.
Excuse me. Jade Cargill and Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
Who's still missing.
I know where he is. He's on the set of Inside the NBA. Dude, you forget Shaq is a genie. Remember?
Kazam.
Yes. So he can just snap his fingers and disappear. It's fine. Shaq is okay. But I'm excited.
That's the best explanation we've gotten, so I'll take it.
I'm actually kind of excited to see what Red Velvet does. She looked really good in this match. I saw a lot of people commenting online too that she was just bumping her ass off the whole time, and she looked great. So I'm excited to see what she does in a solo role. But I am a little afraid most of that is going to take place on Dark. She's also definitely facing Jade in the next week or two. That's definitely coming through.
Yeah, probably.
After that, we had a backstage interview with Jeff Jarrett and the Slapnuts, where they announced, as we said earlier, that there will be a rematch for the tag titles on Friday in a no-holds-barred match. And then we came to the main event, which was Darby Allin versus Samoa Joe for the TNT Championship. Now, actually, before I get to that, I would like to jump into the chat here. Shout out to Janny making the Blues Clues reference with Britt saying boss and winking. That was really good. We know where Shaq is. I just told you. So, and yes, James, that makes sense. A bigger star taking it off a big star. Like losing to Mercedes Moné is not that bad of a thing, especially for Jade Cargill. She's going to, trust me, she's going to keep winning after that. It's not going to be a big deal.
Exactly.
They have put too much time and investment into Jade for her to just go on a losing skid. All right, back to Darby versus Samoa Joe. This match was awesome. So it started. Wrestling prospect Nick Wright was over down at ringside, and Darby went over to say hi to him. Samoa Joe also went to go say hi by grabbing him by the throat.
I don't know why everyone got so mad. That's how Samoans say hi.
That's at least how Samoa Joe says hi
Fair.
to everyone. That just means he likes you, I think.
Exactly. That was a warm greeting.
Yeah. So that allowed that allowed Darby to come rushing through and hit one of his crazy tope suicidas where I thought he landed square on his head. Thank God he didn't. And just immediately took him out. Darby then chases after Joe with his skateboard and starts beating the shit out of him with it, including landing an ollie onto him up the ramp. And then Darby grabs a ladder, climbs the thing, hits a senton, but tweaks his knee in the process. Darby then gets Joe back to the ring. Joe rolls out and Darby chases him. But Joe then grabs him and slams him straight into the steps. And not into the side either. Joe dropped him back first onto the fucking edge of the like the little step part of the steps. It looked vicious. And we went into commercial. And I only mentioned that because during commercial, I looked up out of the corner of my eye and Joe had just yeeted Darby like 20 feet, which is why I love Joe versus Darby, because Joe is strong and he's very safe, but he just compared to Darby, who's willing to do whatever to his body, Joe can just throw him like a fucking lawn dart, and it just makes Joe look so good. And then eventually, when Darby makes his comeback, it makes Darby look like he's beating Godzilla, pun intended. So it's phenomenal. Joe does end up dominating the majority of this match, though, focusing a lot on Darby's injured knee and using his size advantage. Eventually, though, Joe gets Darby up for a muscle buster, but Darby is able to slide out, and he's trying to bring Joe down for a roll-up. But Joe just grabbed Darby by the neck and lifted him up. Darby then floats behind and pushes Joe into the corner. Darby then is trying to roll him back for another roll-up, and Joe is hanging on to the turnbuckle. And in the struggle, Joe eventually rips the turnbuckle pad off as Darby does get the roll-up. But when Darby gets the roll-up, Joe is able to counter and flip Darby into the coquina clutch, which then Darby counters by flipping backwards and putting Joe in a pinning predicament. So Joe has to release the hold and kick out. Darby then gets locked back into the clutch, but this time it's standing, and Darby's able to get to his feet, does the Sting, rage Hulk up thing, and is able to drive Joe into the exposed turnbuckle. Darby then hits a sweet code red. It was so good.
It really was.
And then 2 coffin drops, 1, 2, 3, and he pins Samoa Joe for his second TNT championship, winning it in his hometown. And speaking of woo, Sting comes down and they celebrate together. Okay. So, like I said, this was awesome. I love the chemistry between Darby and Joe. Darby winning the title is really cool, especially in his hometown. I'm excited for him. He gets to have a TNT title reign in front of fans as opposed to when his first one was mostly during the pandemic era. On the flip side of this, little surprised Joe lost the title here. I was really enjoying the King of Television stuff. He was having a really good run. It didn't seem like it was that long. I mean, Full Gear wasn't that long ago, and I know that the TNT title tends to change hands rather quickly, but I thought Joe was going to have a bit of a longer reign with it. So I do have mixed feelings about what happened here, but the match itself was phenomenal.
I am so happy for Darby. He has been killing it all year, really grinding in these tag matches with Sting. And as great as those feuds have been, as great as those matches have been, he's sort of been spinning his wheels a little bit, because if you're not going for a title, you're not really doing much, and you can only lose those title matches so often before it feels like you yourself are the loser. So I'm so happy he has this big win in his hometown against a name like Samoa Joe. I too was shocked at the outcome, but not because I wasn't expecting Joe to lose. I'm just surprised he lost to Darby, because after what he did to Wardlow last week and cutting off his hair, now what?
Yeah, right.
Now what if you're Wardlow, like it's just a grudge match now. I mean, theoretically, Samoa Joe is still the Ring of Honor TV champion. You can still do a lot with that. Wardlow can maybe go for that title. But just a weird story transition. But in the end, Darby Allin is out on top, and I call that a W. I'm very happy. I'm very excited to see what fresh matchups we're going to get because I think Darby will defend the title a lot more than Joe has been.
Yeah, he'll probably do it almost every week. That's what he did last time, and it was great.
Well, by the end of the run, in the beginning of the run, he spent months without defending that title.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. I forgot about that. Yeah, we were all complaining. It's like, why hasn't Darby defended the title? And then he just ripped off like 8 straight defenses.
Exactly. So I think we're going to get something in the middle of that. I think we're going to get a healthy amount of defenses in a more reasonable time period. But awesome. Awesome. I want to see if they're going to change up the TNT title again. I feel like they didn't really do that here with Joe.
Yeah, not really. It's been mostly just black. Although black and red does kind of fit Joe's aesthetic, so I can understand why he would keep it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we'll see what Darby does with it.
Definitely.
I agree with you on everything about Darby. Like, I'm really excited for Darby to be champ again and to hopefully rip off another 8 to 10 title defenses. But you're right. It does put Wardlow in a really weird spot because, now if he's still going after Joe, it's not for a title. Was he just going to fight him because he cut his hair? Like, I guess it's a reason to fight the guy.
Yeah, I would.
It's a reason to fight the guy, but it's just after going for a title, now it's just like you said, a grudge match. And it puts Joe in a weird spot too, I feel like. I know he still has the Ring of Honor title, but I don't think that's something that's going to be defended regularly on AEW TV because I think Tony Khan has said he's trying to move away from that. I mean, I guess we could get the rare Ring of Honor title defense, but quite frankly, I'm kind of enjoying life in AEW without Ring of Honor again.
I am too. I feel bad saying it, but I am too.
Yeah, and I mean, I am okay with that, knowing that a Ring of Honor TV show, so to speak, is coming is in the works. But
in the near future, yeah.
Yeah. But I just feel so weird. And another title reign. Well, and I know technically the Acclaimed ended up winning, but I thought Joe just had a lot more to do as TNT champion.
It might come down to the fact that the ROH TV show is coming sooner than we think. And it's more of a priority for Tony for Joe to be the Ring of Honor TV champion than it is for him to be the TNT champion.
But Joe's all elite.
I think everybody that's on the Ring of Honor roster is all elite, even if they are not called it as such. They're under contract with Tony Khan,
except the Briscoes. But I mean, like, I don't think Dalton Castle's not all elite. He's going to be working.
But all elite is a fun thing that they did when they announced signings.
Yeah.
It's less to do about their actual contract status. Wardlow was all elite way before he was technically all elite. You're officially all elite.
Well, yeah, he was contracted to MJF. He wasn't contracted to AEW.
Come on, man.
Got to keep the kayfabe, James.
It is still real to you, isn't it? But no, I think it doesn't matter. I think we are going to see a healthy amount of people going back and forth. It's just we're going to see Ring of Honor storylines in Ring of Honor and AEW storylines in AEW. That doesn't mean the talent pool is not going to cross. It's just things will feel more contained. And I think that's what's going to happen here.
I'm fine with that. I just wasn't expecting Samoa Joe to be a Ring of Honor regular again. You know what I mean?
It might be while he's champion. Maybe he drops the belt relatively early and then he comes back to AEW. I don't know.
I was figuring he did that, but was also still TNT champion. I thought he was going to be champ for a while. I really did. So this was surprising. And like I said, I think it just kind of throws this weird wrinkle into this feud with Wardlow.
That's my biggest complaint. This weird wrinkle with Wardlow now, but I don't know.
It does allow them, though, to have that feud without the title there.
Yeah, keeping it held hostage.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I really liked King of Television, Samoa Joe. Like, the promo he cut earlier in the show was awesome, where he told the story is like how the king has to, take care of his business and with the insolent dead boy. Like, it was great. Him telling the story is from the perspective of him being the king. He could have ran that gimmick for a really long time, and now it's just, he's got the Ring of Honor championship, but I feel like that's almost, I don't want to say irrelevant in AEW now, but it's not nearly as important as it was 2 or 3 months ago. So it's just I wanted more. And I'm okay with Darby winning. And I'm actually more than okay with Darby winning. I guess I wish it was a little bit later. And I guess I just got more out of Joe being king of television.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. I know this is a tough time.
It sucks. Danny does like the wrinkle, though, from the chat. So
I don't know what Danny likes. I think he likes things that we don't like. And I think he dislikes things that we do like. You confuse me, Danny. You confuse me.
It's literally
hard to keep up.
It's the whole point of that. Oh. All right, so that was Dynamite. First show of the new year, new look, new Dynamite. I think we like the changes. And I think this was a really, really good episode of Dynamite. Obviously, we had the title change. We had the near title change, which freaked me out. The Jericho Ricky match was good. Brian MJF promo was good. We got a lot of good stuff from this episode.
Absolutely. And as great as today felt, it feels like it's the go home for next week's excellent Dynamite.
Yeah, that's actually
very
a good
promising
point.
Dynamite.
Yeah.
Very promising Dynamite.
Yeah, I think we've been getting too hyped up Dynamites because I think they're really trying to put on a bunch of really good shows the next couple of weeks as they do this West Coast tour because they haven't really been out there too much. They're running a bunch of new cities. They want to make sure things are hyped and fresh, which is great, especially for us. So that's good.
A break.
Yeah, well, not even that. Like, yeah, as we've mentioned before, especially after that Bridgeport show, they run the East Coast so often that no one was going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It was just felt like, oh, they're back here again. All right, I can skip this one.
Absolutely.
You know, that was the first time they were in Seattle, and you could tell that crowd was rabid. So I think they're trying to keep things, fresh, and they're trying to put on good shows and good matches. And this was the first one of the new year with the new look, so they wanted to make sure they put out a good show. And then, like you said, it also kind of doubled as the go-home show for the big LA show next week. So I'm excited. I think we're going to rip off a pretty good month of Dynamites here. I think even Rampage looks great this weekend. I think it's
Top Flight to God's ears.
Top Flight versus Mox and Brian is on Friday. Excalibur read that promo at the end so fast, I missed all of it.
It was impressive. Impressive.
I genuinely think that probably the Brian promo went too long. And plus, there was all the Mox microphone screw up at the beginning. So something probably went wrong, and they're probably like, okay, Excalibur, you have 45 seconds to read off 15 matches. Go. It's literally like 3 seconds a match, I think, if my math is right. And he was like, okay, and just mile a minute read all of them off. He probably had more time, and they just had to ditch all of it. But he did it, and it was great. And so is this episode. All right, so I think that pretty much wraps things up here for us. I would like to thank everybody so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. James has been on a fucking tear this week. He's covered Raw with Danny, which will be every Mondays after Raw and the fast forwards. And then he did NXT because Chad just hates it. I think Chad's done. Apparently, NXT is bad.
I don't even blame him.
Dude, freaking Freddie Prinze Jr. I think I saw today is called NXT bad.
Tore a new one. A new one.
Hey, what's up, Navarro? We're all very, very hyped about the Iron Man match too. So yes, I don't know if NXT shows are going to be coming back. I don't know if anybody wants to subject themselves to that. When it does, we will let you know. But until then, just consider it on hiatus. We will be back here on Wednesdays for Dynamite recaps. Tomorrow, James, I think somehow is doing his Gym Pack Zone, and he will be doing that every Thursday. Also, go check out his Wrestle Kingdom show. I promise, James, I will watch it after I watch Wrestle Kingdom. But apparently that show was great, and James, I can only imagine, did a phenomenal recap of it somehow at 7 o'clock in the morning. What time did you go on? Was it 7?
I went on around 7. I didn't get to bed until like 9 a.m.
Woof. You sound like me on a weekend. You don't even want to know what I did this weekend. Yeah, so be sure to like and subscribe so you can get all of that stuff. Also, be sure to check out all of our social medias. It is in the description below. I almost pointed this way because I have a new screen now and I'm literally reading them. And yeah, So for James Asante, my name is Nick Cummings. Like I said, I hope everyone has a happy new year, and we will catch you here next time on the Mark It Down podcast. Have a good night, everybody. Ooh, I almost ended the meeting. That would have been bad. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye now.